Hello. So I'm Corinne. I run a project in Manchester. We're a community interest company called Real Junk Food Manchester. The right one? Yes. So in brief, Real Junk Food, not-for-profit project. We work with food businesses to source food that would otherwise go to waste, cook it up into beautiful meals with a focus on health and nutrition, and serve those meals to anyone and everyone on a pay-as-you-feel basis. And I like to smatter my presentations with pictures of things that I've found in bins, just so you can see. The aim of the project is not to pick things out of bins. I just do that for fun on the side. What the project does is intercept food that would otherwise go to waste. But one of the things that I do love to do wherever I go is take pictures of stuff that we have found that is a bit past it. We found just over 100 kilos of satsumas in a skip on New Smithfield Market. Picture says 1,000 words. So, why is food waste a problem? I'm going to I have to admit, this presentation may have been used for something else beforehand, and I might be adapting it slightly, so I'll talk around this. So, one of the reasons that food waste is a problem is because it has a huge environmental impact. A lot of the time when people think about food, they think, well, it's a natural product, so surely it does less damage to the environment than plastic or diesel or whatever else. Food waste rotting in landfill under anaerobic conditions creates huge amounts of methane, which is 25 times more damaging to our environment than carbon dioxide. So the carbon footprint that goes with food is absolutely massive. So the carbon footprint, I can't remember who it was, I think it was the UN Food and Agriculture Organisation, brought out a report last year that said that the carbon footprint associated with food that never gets eaten, food that is wasted, is currently at about 3.3 gigatons, which doesn't mean anything to anyone because numbers don't. But basically what that means is if food waste was a country, it would be the third highest carbon emitter on the planet after the US and China. So the carbon footprint of food waste, not food, just the food that goes to waste, is higher than the carbon footprint of the UK. That's crap. So the lowest thing we can do with food that's going to go to waste is put it in a belly, any belly, rather than a bin, any bin. If you take all the humanity and all the kindness out of it, just the most energy efficient, sustainable thing we can do is put food that's going to go to waste in the belly. So that's what we aim to do. There's currently about 15 million tonnes of food going to waste in the UK alone every year. The figure globally is about 1.3 billion tonnes. And again, once you get past, everything's either the size of a golf ball, the size of a grapefruit, or the size of a football pitch, isn't it? Once you get anywhere outside of those, it doesn't really mean anything. But thinking about this in terms of resources, because we're talking about make, do and mend today. So I don't know if you can see, we used these for a pop-up. I think we made a giant pan of curry with these, not just these, obviously, that would be a bit lacking. But I don't know if you can see, the box there says product of the Dominican Republic. So these beautiful little aubergines have been grown somewhere, wasting huge amounts of land, watered. Most of the produce that we produce on this planet is not organic, so they've been coated in pesticides, which are made from delightful petrochemicals. There have been huge amounts of diesel used in the harvesting and transporting. They've been kept in fridges at various points along the way, so that's lots of refrigerant chemicals and lots of energy. They have been transported, they've been packaged. When we got them, they were wrapped in cardboard with plastic on the top. That's where the carbon footprint comes from. Every time we waste food, the bit that consumers see is the little bit in the middle where you go to the supermarket or you go to the market or you go wherever you buy your food from, and it's on the shelf and it either gets sold or it doesn't. But every time we waste food, we're wasting land, water, pesticides, diesel, and it's huge. No, we'll leave that, it's a bit boring. That's prettier. So one of the things we try to do with Real Junk Food is, the short-term mission is feed bellies, not bins. And I'll just talk for a minute about the kind of social aspect of that. So all of the food we serve at Real Junk Food is served on a pay-as-you-feel basis. And that was a really conscious move against the food bank movement that's going on at the moment. This is not a dig at food banks. There are a lot of great projects out there that provide emergency meals, that provide food for people who wouldn't otherwise get them, and that's great. One of my issues with projects that target people in food poverty is that if you target people in food poverty, as a general rule, what you also do is separate them from everyone else. And as use of food banks goes up and up and up, and we have a harder and harder time, which may or may not start to get better tomorrow morning. Has everybody voted today?
Yes.
No one voted UKIP, did they? Okay. As our economy has had, let's say, a slightly turbulent decade, and use of food banks has gone up and up and up, what we're seeing is a more and more polarised break, where if you've got money, you go where you want, you buy what you want, and you eat what you want, and if you haven't got money, you get sent somewhere separate and you get what you're given. And both of those things, the getting sent somewhere separate and the getting what you're given, have huge psychological, social and health implications. And this is not my idea of community. This is not what I want, because I'm pretty sure I'm at the lower end of this spectrum, more and more as I run this project, actually. So what we wanted to do was just find a way to bring people together. There's lots of projects out there that say we are inclusive, anyone can come and have a free meal or a cheap meal. But a lot of the projects where anyone can go and have a free meal or a cheap meal, they're not truly inclusive, because they're not attracting huge swathes of the community, because anyone who has consumer choices, who has money to spend and can decide where they eat and what they eat, don't go to those projects, because the quality of the food may not be that great, or they might be slightly depressing places to be, or they might just be completely tucked away. These places don't have advertising budgets. So we decided that what we wanted to do was create cool city centre, initially, spaces where the food offer was consistently great, positive, lovely social spaces where people wanted to go and just happened to serve all the meals on a pay-as-you-feel basis, and they just all happen to be made from waste food. And we do a lot of banging on about it, but we also make sure that what we're doing is cool, is popular. I've got 2 absolutely fabulous chefs who bang out restaurant quality meals day in, day out, and essentially get to play the biggest game of Ready, Steady, Cook you've ever played in your life. I've managed to find 2 chefs who genuinely seem to think it's really exciting that they have to make dinner for 150 people and they have no idea what they're getting. Bless them. So just to bring it back to the Make, Do and Mend thing and keep it a bit practical, I'm preaching to the converted, so I don't know why I'm putting this up. I don't think anybody here is driving a Land Rover to Tesco's twice a week, are they? But a lot of the time people ask us, what can I do that's practical? What can I do at home? So we also give out a lot of tips about buying the right amount, cooking the right amount, storing things correctly, and little things like completely ignoring best before dates. One of the longer term missions that we have, did I just get a small hiss at the mention of best before dates? I am in the right room. So one of the things that we're doing in the longer term is a bit more campaigning and consultancy work. Will only ever be a drop in the ocean at that, but as Mary said, small acts are a wonderful thing, and you're only ever a drop in the ocean, but you can decide which wave you're going to be part of. It's one of my favourites. So we're doing some consultancy and campaigning, working with a lot of other groups around how can we fix our broken food system, because the other thing about working in any huge social or environmental problem is if you're not trying to do yourself out of a job, if your exit strategy isn't I should be redundant in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, then you're doing something really wrong. So that's my aim, to make myself utterly redundant. Myself and Adam Smith, who started the Real Junk Food Project, have an ongoing joke that once we sort the food system out, we're going to go into banking, we're going to go into the real banking system, and we'll stop food redistribution, we'll start wealth redistribution. So look out for that court case soon. Our food waste mantra is completely ignore best before dates, use your senses. How do you know if food's all right to eat? Look at it, smell it, touch it. If it walks out the fridge on its own, probably not. Start your cooking from what's in there. I mean, that's what we do every single day, and we're turning out restaurant quality food, what's in the fridge, what's going to go off, what have you got to, you know, sometimes it's, oh God, courgettes again. And play ready, steady cook every single day at home, and that's how many sashimi I found in a bin.